Good afternoon. My name is Christy Cardillo, and a warm Bradenton Kiwanis welcome to everyone. We are pleased to share our program of the candidate forums for Manatee County Court Judge for Group 4 via live stream broadcasting. We want to thank all of the candidates for taking the time today to participate. Kiwanians Alex Garner and Janene Amick, who have worked hard to bring the forums together for everyone. And a special thank you to Manatee Performing Arts Center and Shin Visual Productions for all the hard work in making the magic of an online forum happen. We appreciate everyone. We would like to extend a special welcome to our guests online. If any of our guests tuning in are interested in joining Bradenton Kiwanis, please reach out to us via our website. We have a great group here that lead by serving. We'd love for you to join the Kiwanis family. We are a driving force that makes a lasting difference for families and our community. Our efforts strive toward a community dedicated to the success of children and families. Now, please welcome Janene Amick, a fellow Kiwanian, who will be moderating the forum.
Thank you, President-elect Christy Cardillo. Welcome back, everyone. We hope this is not your first time joining us, but if it is, again, a special welcome. The series of these forums is so that we, as people in the community, can get to know better our candidates, really find out what makes them tick, their value systems, their principles, why they want the job that they're going after. And so hopefully today, you'll learn more about these particular candidates that we have before us. Now, some opening remarks. The Florida Rules of Judicial Conduct have very specific rules regarding what candidates can say and cannot say during a campaign. Each candidate has been given a set of choice questions today that he or she had the ability to answer from. What that means is they walked in and we handed them 8 questions. Each of our candidates answered question number 2 and then chose 3 additional questions to share their answers with you. Now, the questions hopefully will encourage each candidate, allows you, our audience, to get to know them as a person. Judges are ordinary people with extraordinary jobs, and many have served on various organizations or in service clubs in Manatee County, including the local Red Cross, Bradenton Kiwanis Club. We would like you, our voters of Manatee County, to get to know them through this event today. Again, to clarify, one of the questions you will never hear a judge candidate answer is what is their political affiliation. So hopefully you have learned something new today and know that when you email them and ask them that question and don't get a response, it's not because they don't want to share it, it's because they're legally bound not to. Okay, so everybody answered question number 2, but we're going to start with introductions. So each of our candidates is going to open with a 2-minute opening remark, and we're going to start with Miss Melissa Gould down on the end. Melissa, your 2-minute opening remark, please.
Thank you. My name's Melissa Gould. I'm very thankful to be here today. I thought I would just tell you a little bit about myself. I went to law school in New York, and while I was there, I had the phenomenal experience of interning for a judge, and that sealed the deal for me, and I knew then that this is what I wanted to do, and every decision that I've made since that time has been strategically mapped out to make me a well-rounded candidate for this exact job. After law school, I went on and I did a Master's of Law at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And when I graduated, I moved to the Tampa Bay area and started my career strategically in civil litigation. During that time, I had the good fortune of meeting my now husband, Ryan Jawitz. He was not yet finished with school, and we ended up moving to Michigan for him to do his residency in dermatology. While in Michigan, I continued to work in civil litigation, and I also taught law at Oakland University. When Ryan graduated, we moved to Manatee County. It made sense for us to move here. Ryan grew up here, and my in-laws, Paula and Jack Jawitz, have been here for close to 4 years. Since being back, I've had 2 children, and I have been working as a prosecutor at the state attorney's office. I have dedicated my career to serving our community in the courtroom on a regular basis. I have handled a wide range of different types of criminal prosecutions, from misdemeanors to felonies, so DUI, domestic battery, to child abuse, child neglect, drug trafficking, sexual battery, exploitation of the elderly, animal cruelty cases. I do a lot of community outreach, and in my personal life, I do a lot of volunteer work. I am very committed and dedicated to this community, and I am ready and eager to be the next Manatee County Court Judge. Thanks again for having me here today.
Thank you, Melissa. We'll move on to Ms. Connie Medeiros Jacobs. Your 2 minutes, Connie.
Good afternoon. I'm Connie Medeiros Jacobs, and I'm also running for Manatee County Judge. I've been in this community since 1989. I went to school year-round at Nova, Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale, and Stetson Law School in St. Pete, year-round so that I can graduate in a shorter period of time. I started my career at the Office of the State Attorney in the Juvenile Division here in Manatee County, and I worked my way up to felonies that included prosecuting cases anywhere from misdemeanors to murder. I also handled the grand jury for one of the homicide cases that I handled. After 4 years with the State Attorney's Office, I went out and hung out a shingle, opened up my private practice. When I opened up my private practice, I was down here on Manatee Avenue, and for 2 years I took everything that walked in the door, anything from a barking dog to homeowners association disputes to landlord-tenant to serious felony matters. I also did a great deal of family law. Within 2 years, I was able to purchase my own building, which is across the street from the new courthouse right around the block, and I've been there ever since. So for the last 31 years, I have been representing the people of Manatee County, not just in Manatee County, but when Manatee County or Sarasota County residents get in trouble or have issues in other parts of the state. I have represented people and had trials or handled cases anywhere from Key West to Pensacola. I've had cases in every single circuit in the state of Florida. I've also handled cases and had trials in the Middle District, Federal District of Florida, and the Northern District of Florida. I've also had cases in the Southern District of Florida. I've also had trials in Washington, D.C. That one particularly lasted 4 months. I've had cases in the Federal District Court of Tennessee and Kentucky as well. So I'm extremely experienced. In the last 31 years, I've had more trials than I can think of right now, certainly more than my opponents. I can also, oops, done.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Melissa. We'll move on to Mr. Chris Pratt. Mr. Pratt, your 2-minute opening, please.
Also, thank you for having us here today. I appreciate the opportunity to make an opening statement. My name is Chris Pratt. In this community since 1958 because I'm a lifelong resident here in Manatee County. I'm 62 years old. I'm married, have a daughter, have a granddaughter, and have a stepson. I've been practicing in Palmetto in the same building since 1984, and during that time, I wish that I had done some zoning, because then I could say I had done everything from A to Z. I've done appeals, I've done everything there is to do in the local court system and in the appellate system, other than I have not argued in the Florida Supreme Court. Specifically, as it relates to county court, I've done all manner of misdemeanors. I've done all manner of felony too, for that matter. I've done family law. I've done collections from both the collector side and the collectee side. I've done evictions from both ends and the person getting evicted. I've done everything that there is that you do in county court, and I do it all regularly. In addition to that, it is important to know that I have been involved in a number of community events as it relates to the practice of law. I've been on the grievance committee on not one cycle, but 2 cycles. The grievance committee is the grand jury for determining whether lawyers themselves have done something incorrect. I've done 2 cycles on the grievance committee, including as a chairperson on both cycles. If you need more information, you can go to my website, prattforjudge.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll end with our introductions with Christy Zenna.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Christy Zenna, and I grew up here in Manatee County. I am a graduate of Palmetto High School. I have a degree in American History from the University of South Florida in Tampa, and my doctorate degree in law is from Stetson University right up the road in Gulfport, Florida. I started my legal career also here in Manatee County as a prosecutor under Earl Moreland. After my period of time with the state attorney's office, I then transferred to the public defender's office, also here in Manatee County. In 2013, I transitioned to nearly exclusively civil litigation, and in 2015, I hung a shingle and started the law office of Christy Zena. Not only am I a lawyer, but like many of you listening and watching today, I am also a business owner. And I understand the extra time constraints that business owners face when dealing with our legal system. A business owner, when dealing with legal matters, has to return to their office and then deal with further responsibilities like payroll, employee management, and production deadlines. And I get this because I do this too. Every person before me will deserve and receive respect, not only for themselves as individuals, but respect of their time. Become a prosecutor and a public defender here in Manatee County, which is a rare legal combination to have on a resume, I have logged thousands of cases and thousands of hours for the very seat for which I seek election. And this means that I can hit the ground running in a quick and knowledgeable fashion. I am patient, I am hardworking, and I very much want your vote to be the next county court judge here in Manatee County. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for those opening remarks. We hope you watching enjoyed them as well. We'll move into the questions, and we'll start with the question that all of our candidates answered today. The following question was posed to them. The Florida Constitution outlines the qualifications to be a judge. Beyond those basic qualifications, describe how you are qualified to be a Manatee County judge. And we'll start with Christy. Christy, your initial response was, I have logged thousands of cases and hours in the very courtroom in Manatee County for which I seek election. My logged experience has also been incredibly diverse. Can you explain more?
So just as I was mentioning in my introduction, I have been both a prosecutor and a public defender. Misdemeanor court is one aspect of county court, and it's a very large aspect of county court here in Manatee County. The two facets of that would be, of course, prosecution and defense. So having done both of those government aspects of the criminal spectrum, I then actually did private criminal defense work. And then after that, I switched to the other spectrum, which is civil litigation. And I am very well versed in the rules of procedure for both criminal and civil. And with that being said, that is something that I think will 100% assist in the transition to the bench. And for that, I think I have great experience for the seat for which I seek election.
Thank you. Mr. Pratt, your initial response was, my qualifications above the constitutional requirements are my experience, my professionalism, and my demeanor. Will you explain more?
As we all know in county court, all of us are very well experienced in the criminal aspect of it, but there's also the second half of it, which is the civil aspect of it. The civil aspect of being a county judge deals with the people's court. So many of the people come in, they're not represented, they don't really know what's going on in the case, and they're a little nervous. First, judges, most important, need patience, and I'm a very patient person. Second, they really need professionalism. Means the ability to not personalize the litigants, the issue, or the witnesses, and to take it all as it comes and to judge it fairly. I'm the only candidate who has actually won the award in Manatee County, actually it's the 12th Judicial Circuit, Manatee and Sarasota County, the award for professionalism in this situation. And obviously demeanor and knowledge would also be very important as well. Nobody wants a judge who doesn't know the law. I've been practicing in this area for 36 years now. I'm very confident that I understand the law very well in county court.
Thank you, Chris. We'll move on to Ms. Connie's response. My 3 decades of courtroom and trial experience throughout the state of Florida and in federal courts makes me the most qualified candidate for Manatee Court Judge. I have practiced in all of the court divisions for 31 years. The last 10 or so years, I've been, my apologies, Ms. Connie, to your personal practice and criminal defense, but also have on related civil issues as well. Will you explain more?
Yes, I've been doing this job for 31 years in the civil and the criminal arena. Oftentimes, I start off representing a defendant in criminal court, which leads to civil issues as well. I've handled personal injury, I've handled landlord-tenant, I've handled homeowners association cases, I've handled major cases involving forfeitures with the Sheriff's Office here in Manatee County. So I'm also very, very familiar with the civil aspect of the county court system as well as the criminal court. I believe that demeanor of a judge is extremely important and how the judicial process works out. As Mr. Pratt indicated, many of our citizens here come to court without the benefit of an attorney for whatever reason. And it is their day. They've been living and sleeping this incident that happened in their lives, whether they're there because they're the petitioner or the respondent, and they are scared to death. I think it's important, it's imperative for a judge to mete out justice in a fair and impartial manner, be knowledgeable, and above all, to be respectful of the litigants and the witnesses that come before the court. I believe I have that experience because I've watched judges for 31 years, not only in county court, circuit court, and in federal court and the appellate courts. And how a judge conducts herself determines how this case will come out. So I think it's important that the litigants know whether they're represented by counsel and know the rules of procedure or not, that they're going to have a fair shake and they're going to have a judge of the situation no matter what the final decision is in the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. And Melissa, will end this question with you. Your response was, I have interned for a judge. After law school, I went on and did a master's in law. I have worked in civil litigation. I have taught law and done some work in criminal defense. Since 2012, I have dedicated my career to serving the people of our community in the courtroom as an assistant state attorney. Will you share more with our audience, please?
Yes, thank you. In New York, I had the opportunity to intern for a Supreme Court judge, and that included writing draft orders and draft opinions. And as I mentioned in my intro, it was then that I decided I wanted to be a judge, so I strategically planned out what I did next. You don't to have a master's degree in law to be an attorney. That is something that I wanted to do because I wanted to have a deeper understanding and appreciation of the law. And while I was at Cambridge, I did in fact write a master's thesis. My thesis concentrated on United States constitutional issues in addition to criminal procedure issues. When I started my career in civil litigation, I worked at a large firm in Tampa, and I was handling things like if a professional was sued, we came to his or her defense, homeowner and condominium association issues, discrimination issues, things of that nature. And when we moved to Michigan for my husband's residency, I continued to do that type of work in addition to contract law disputes. And I handled cases in federal court that concerned the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And I mentioned before I had the opportunity to teach. Specifically, I taught evidence, family law, judicial process, and constitutional law. And I'm a firm believer that to teach the law is to have a very deep understanding of the law. I did also volunteer my time for several months at the University of Michigan's Innocence Clinic. And for those who are unaware, that's a clinic that is about helping those who have been wrongfully convicted be exonerated from the crime. And as I mentioned before, since moving to Manatee County, I have dedicated my career to serving our community in the courtroom, and I do that on a day-in, day-out basis. And I am proud of that fact, and I also mentor young attorneys at our office. I have...
So,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for answering that question. We are very pleased that you all are so knowledgeable and each worthy of the position. So we'll go into a question that only some of you selected to answer. And the question is, what character traits are important for a judge? And we're going to start with Connie. Connie, the beginning of your response is, the judicial bench is not a throne from which to dictate, but in fact, it is the ultimate position for a public servant. A judge who remembers that, he or she is truly an elected public servant of the people who brought her to the bench. Will you share more, please?
Absolutely. In 31 years, I've had an opportunity to work in front of some of the best judges in the system. I've also had the unpleasant experience of appearing in front of judges who were not the best. And I saw the effects it had on the litigants that were appearing in the courtroom as that judge ordered someone out of his courtroom or had them thrown into a holding cell and yelled at witnesses who were testifying on an issue that the judge didn't agree with. I've seen the best and I've seen the worst. I believe it's so important for judges to remember you are a public servant. You're there because the people put you on that bench. They need an opportunity to be heard and have their issues settled, whether it's a criminal matter or a civil matter. There is nothing worse than having a witness come in and feel intimidated by the court's demeanor or lack of patience. Because this is the people's court, it is paramount to the successful process of justice that the judge sit there and listen and observe, be knowledgeable and be prepared, and above all, be respectful and empathetic for those people that appear before him or her. As I indicated before, people are scared to death when they come to court, and while it may be something that you or I may do every single day in our professional careers, and the judges are sitting on that bench every day hearing the same type of defense or the same type of stories, it is that person's day in court. That is the voter that puts you there, and they trust you to make the right decision. You make the right decision by listening, by giving respect, by being empathetic to the situation, the facts, or the people involved, the pain that they suffered, or the pain that they caused, and how they got to that situation. I think that is the ultimate public servant, is to be a judge for the people of Manatee County. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. We'll move to Christy. Christy, you said professionalism, being ethical, a hardworking and a patient attitude. Will you explain more?
Yes, clearly judges, when they're on the bench, have a courtroom full of people. And the vibe, if you will, of that courtroom is really determined on how the judge is handling the cases. The judge needs to be always professional, ethical, calm, and patient. The ability to manage a large docket in that calm and patient is invaluable. When I started at the state in my government practice and then continued on to the public defender's office, you were given enormous numbers of cases and you were expected to work those cases thoroughly and give them all the due process rights to which they were entitled. And so time management skills, the ability to organize, all of that, all of those are traits that are a necessity in a judge. They have very large dockets. The County Court of Manatee funnels some 70% of the total cases in the county through its doors, and there is no time at all to spend indecisively on these cases. You must get through them quickly. You must be knowledgeable. You must stay calm. Everybody's looking at you to remain calm.
Thank you. Melissa, you chose to answer this question. Your answer was, a judge must be a good listener, fair and impartial, a hard worker, a problem solver, a good writer, ask important questions. Would you elaborate, please?
Yes, thank you. And those qualities of an effective jurist have been mentioned by my colleagues here today. I also think, we all know who Benjamin Franklin was, founding father, and much more than that, a scientist, a writer, a humorist. And he had a lot of meaningful quotes. One that resonates with me was when he said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." And I think that that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, but for me, it means that a judge really needs to be conscientious of the fact that her decisions are so impactful on not just the people in the courtroom, but the community at large. And so in addition to all of the other qualities that make up an effective jurist, I definitely think that a judge needs to be mindful that her rulings really play a bigger role in the community than just the people that they address in the courtroom.
Thank you. Another question, we'll move on. The question was, besides your qualifications and experience, how have you otherwise prepared yourself to be a Manatee County judge? Mr. Pratt chose to answer this question. I have prepared myself to be a county judge in my service to the community. 1, Grievance Committee. 2, New Courthouse Committee. 3, Indigent Services Committee, and umpiring Little League Baseball. Can you share with us more on those?
As you can see, I have significant community service, but most of my community service has been directed toward the bar. And the reason for that is I believe it's important to give back to the community at large, but also the community at which I practice every day. The Grievance Committee is a very, very important thing that we do. That it's a statewide grievance committee, but I was on Committee 12B, and I did it twice. The Grievance Committee is really like the grand jury for reviewing complaints against lawyers. For instance, if a lawyer were to steal money from his trust account, it would start out at the Grievance Committee. It would also be directed to the state attorney's office, but we would be the people who would review the evidence to see whether or not the person should be sanctioned, should be disbarred, or any other level. We would be the body that did the actual investigation to determine what should happen to that lawyer as it relates to his bar license. This is really, really important because it taught me that there can be people who make fraudulent claims, and whenever we investigated, we found out that the claim made by the complainant was incorrect, and we find out that not all lawyers are as good, honest, and ethical as they should be. One of the other people here indicated, other candidates indicated that ethics is incredibly important for a judge. I'm the only person who has spent 2 cycles on the Grievance Committee. I'm very confident I understand the ethics, and I can assure you I have the ethics necessary to be a county court judge.
Thank you. You chose to answer this question. It says, I have been fortunate in my life to have encountered a lot of diverse people in diverse situations that have prepared me to be an effective jurist. Would you explain more, please?
Thank you. That's exactly right, and I have been fortunate in my life to come across diverse situations and diverse people. And what that has taught me is you definitely cannot judge a book by its cover, and you can't judge a group by one person in the group. It's all about evidence and examining the big picture and what is before you. I have degrees from 3 different countries. I have taught a broad spectrum of different students, and it would have been very easy to, judge them from the first time they walked into the classroom, but I didn't do that. Especially when I was at Cambridge, came across a lot of different types of people, and I learned their different cultural mores. I have done a lot of volunteer work in my life. In fact, ever since I was a very young child, I've been doing different types of volunteer work. Present day, I am a regular Meals on Wheels delivery gal. And my point from all of that is I've had experience with a lot of different types of people and different types of situations. And in my job as an assistant state attorney, I'm dealing with all walks of life on every given day. Victims of crime, defendants, their families, law enforcement, other professionals, and I have to deal with that. And that has taught me to be tolerant and examine the big picture and the evidence.
Thank you. The last candidate who chose to answer this question was Ms. Connie. In addition to my 30-plus years experience, I have reached out to the community to get their feedback on the court system, including their experiences over and over again. She's told, I just want to be heard. I want the judge to listen. I want to understand the process, and how will it affect my case? Will you explain more, Connie?
Yes, I've spent a great deal of time working in the community. I'm past president of Fall, Manatee County, past president of the Inns of Court. I was on the board of United Way and board of Habitat for Humanity, Manatee County, and board at Temple Beth Israel. I've assisted students in mock trial and also participated in teen court as a mentor. I also volunteer my time because I'm bilingual. I'm Cuban American, 2nd generation. So I have a tremendous connection with our minority population here in Manatee County. For those of you who may not be aware, 25% of our population here in Manatee County is minority. Of those 25%, between 14 and 17% are Hispanic and either identify as brown or black. I believe that it's time to have diversity on our bench. We have diversity in our bar associations, that's the diversity issues in our community. To my knowledge, we've never had a minority on the Manatee County bench in the history of Manatee County. The reason I believe that I'm most qualified is because I identify with our community. I've gone out and dealt with small business owners, both minority and non-minority, and they all say the same thing. We just want a fair shot. We want to be heard, whether we can afford a lawyer or not. That's what I want to know. I want to understand what's happening to me or my issue. I can tell you that because I've been doing this for 31 years, I know what the voters think. I know what the community needs, and I believe I'm the person to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. We'll move into the next set of questions. Why did you decide you would like to serve as a judge? We'll start with Christy, and her initial response is, I have the heart of a public servant. This, coupled with a strong drive to give back to my community, leads me to the natural progression of wanting to serve my county as a judge. Would you share with our audience more, please?
Yes, thank you. As an attorney, there's a point in your career that you have ideally done every case you can imagine that you could do, and you have learned quite a bit and grown as a practitioner. The next natural conclusion at that point would be to seek the bench. I started off as a public servant, as a prosecutor, and then, as I've mentioned before, transferred to the public defender's office and continued my public service. I have and always have had the heart of a public servant. In 2018, my husband, Rory Zena, who was an attorney here in Manatee County, passed away from bone cancer. And the outpouring that my community was humbling. I had people come mow my lawn, pressure clean my house. I would come home and these things would have been done. I, to this day, could not begin to thank everyone that just participated in our time of grief. This community is a wonderful community, and it has strongly been here for me and my family. My family is very invested in this community. My husband's family is also from here, and I'm also very tied to this community. All of my friends and loved ones are here, and I want to give back to my community. I love this community. It has been here for me. This is the next progression in my occupation, and this is the way that I can serve.
Thank you. Connie, you answered this question. I decided to run for judge in order to serve the people of Manatee County with respect, patience, and empathy. Will you share more, please?
Yes, as I indicated before, many of the people who appear in county court are there unrepresented. They're scared to death. They want an opportunity to be heard. Oftentimes I hear the complaint, I didn't get a chance to say anything. The judge just rushed me out. They're not even complaining about the judgment that was given. They're concerned because they didn't get a chance to present everything that they felt they should. This is the people's court. County court has to understand that people come unrepresented many times for whatever reasons, whether financial or because they choose to represent themselves because they feel strongly about their issues. It is so important to give empathy to the people who appear before you in county court, not just the litigants, but the witnesses that are dragged in. The professional witnesses, law enforcement, all those people that make up the case have to have a judge that's patient, respectful, knowledgeable, and listens to the evidence, listens to the testimony, and observes how the rule of law calls the balls and strikes as necessary. Everybody understands that this is an adversarial. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, but it's the opportunity to be heard with respect, knowledge, patience, above all, and empathy. I believe that I'm the person to carry out those qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. The question reads, you have been a resident of Manatee County for many years and seen many changes in the judicial and justice system. How has the system changed during your career? Mr. Pratt, you were the only candidate who chose to answer this one. Your response was, the justice system has changed since 1984 in many ways. Changes include a less personal, move by the book system that moves cases in an efficient but less individualized way. Judicial demeanor has changed over the years as well. Can you share with our audience more about that, please?
I've been practicing in Manatee County since 1984. When I started practice, we had judges like Walter Talley, Gilbert Smith Sr., Judge Hensley. We had judges who not only were following the law, but had a heart and listened to what people said. What's happened over the years is, because the legislature has imposed pretty strict standards, is we now have guidelines for everything. We have minimum mandatories for everything. We've taken away the judicial discretion necessary for courts and judges to individually judge cases. And this is a real problem. In addition to that, we now require so many, I hate to say, but in family law, there's so much that you have to do in order to get a case to trial that it has depersonalized it. Judges used to, if it's a small divorce, just set it for trial and let it go. Let's get this moving. But now the requirements for doing divorces, there's all this documentation you have to provide, regardless of whether it's the Donald Trump divorce or whether it's, some guy who they've been married for 6 months, they've made a mistake, and they have nothing. You still have to go through the same processes. It's really important that judges utilize their discretion and not just go all the time by the book. It's really, really important.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Those listening, Mr. Pratt is not saying that media said today that Mr. Trump is going through another divorce, just for the record. I had to lighten it up a little for you. Okay, so we'll move on to question number 7. And 2 of our candidates chose. In criminal cases, how are you equipped to balance a tough-on-crime mentality with the respect for defendants' due process rights? Christy, you answered this question. Let me your initial response. I am the only candidate who has had experience as a prosecutor, a public defender, and a private criminal defense attorney. This experience inherently balances a respect for due process with the ability to pass sentences appropriately and whenever warranted. Would you explain and share more, please?
So this has definitely come up, I feel like, in most of these questions today. The question itself was geared towards criminal law. And the question was, how do you think you're going to be, essentially, how are you going to be able to balance a person's due process rights, the respect for that, with the I discerned as being the need to punish? And yes, our criminal system is very much inherently a punishing type system. With that being said, I think it's very desirable in a judge to have someone on the bench who has done every criminal job that can be done before a county court judge. Having been a prosecutor, I can look at someone's criminal record, I can look at the facts of the case and the aggravators and understand what punishment would be warranted. As a public defender, I can have that concern, or did have that concern, for my client's due process rights and always make sure that they have had the ability to be heard and to have a trial if they want to have a trial. And all of those interests need to be balanced in a fair criminal system. And I am the only one that has done all of those. And having that experience, I think, inherently makes me a better candidate to weigh out all of those different factions and factors and come up with the best decision possible, especially in a criminal setting.
Thank you. Mr. Pratt, you answered this question. I am equipped to balance tough on crime with patience and individualized review of files. The toughest part would
We enacted through a constitutional amendment what's known as Marcy's Law. And Marcy's Law gives victims the opportunity to be heard at all stages in the criminal case. Clearly, defendants and the defendant's lawyer have an obligation to raise any claims that they might have, to ensure that they are protected and their due process rights are protected. But I also think it's critically important that victims have every opportunity to make sure that they get notice and they have an opportunity to be heard. Everyone has emphasized the need for the judge to listen. I also think it's critically important that we not only listen to the litigants and things of that nature, but the victim's input is critically important.
Thank you. The last question that was asked of our candidates, one candidate chose to answer, how can you ensure your constituents that you will remain impartial regardless of your personal or political views? Melissa, you chose to answer this question, and your response was the following: a judge must be conscientious of their personal beliefs and set them aside. Will you explain?
I think it would be naive to think that we all don't come with personal life experiences, beliefs, whether they be religious or non-religious. We're people, so we have those, obviously. But I think that a judge really needs to be conscientious of that and encapsulate those personal beliefs in their decision based on the evidence before you in court. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C. and gone into the United States Supreme Court, it literally is written on the entrance of the building, equal justice under the law. And when people talk about Lady Justice, you know, the one that holds the scales are never tilted one way or the other, and in fact, she has a blindfold. And so those are very important things for a judge to always remember. And I also think that a judge should be conscientious of the golden rule. And by that, I mean do unto others. And that is definitely a principle that I try to instill in my 7-year-old and my 4-year-old. You know, treat thy neighbor like you want to be treated. And as a judge, I would definitely do that for the people in the courtroom, but always keeping in mind the big picture and me as a judge.
Thank you. We'll move into our 2 minutes of closing remarks. And I will ask the candidates if you would share with our audience something that keeps you going through the day, and also any last remarks that you wanted our constituents today viewing who were unable to know anything through the questions that were asked. So we'll start with
I've always been family-minded, but time with my children, you cannot take it for granted. The time that you are given with your loved ones is a precious commodity, and I don't take that for granted ever again. And so I spend a lot of time with my family. I'm sure my 17-year-old wishes I didn't spend so much time with her, but I do. And we do family activities together. We do a lot of activities together with my extended family, and I'm close to all of them. They all live here, and I'm very fortunate. That is what I do in my spare time.
Okay, and then 2 minutes, your continued 2 minutes of what else would you like to share about yourself and your candidacy with our audience?
Okay. Again, my name is Christy Zenna, and it has been a pleasure to address you today. You are Kiwanis, and every person, community service-minded individual, and I'd like to conclude by addressing community service. My own community service as an attorney includes that I provide pro bono, which is free, representation of children in high conflict family law cases here in the 12th Circuit as a guardian ad litem. I am also a member of the Supporters of Law Enforcement, and in that capacity, of the fallen officers, and I'm on the board of directors for Manatee Tiger Bay. As a judge, I would plan on continuing my community service work because in a fashion of promoting and attempting to bring back or initiate in our community. We love Sarasota has one. I would love to see that back. I was one of the attorney representatives for DUI court when we had it. Sarasota County has mental health court. I think that would be a wonderful addition to our community. In all of these types of diversion courts, I would be willing as a judge to give my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pratt, your passion and your final remarks, please.
Like Ms. Zena, my passion is my family. I never miss an opportunity to spend time with my granddaughter. She's the light of my life, the joy in my soul. Every time you see her and she comes running to you saying, "Granddaddy," I'm telling you, it just melts your heart. I'm sure many of you know that feeling. And my passion in my life, what keeps me moving forward in my life is, well, of course, my wife, because I love my wife, and my granddaughter. Wonderful. Keeps you young. As it relates to my candidacy for county judge, if you were to review my history, you would see 36 years in Manatee County, a very broad range of experience. Everything that you're going to see in county court, I have done. A vote for Chris Pratt is really a vote for 36 years of experience, 36 years of problem solving, and 36 years of common sense, because that's what I bring to the table. If you need
graduate early and jump in and start with prosecution and then work my way into private practice. I am appreciative every day that I pass the bar. I am happy to represent just about anybody that comes into my office and explain to them the judicial process, what it means, even if it means going into the courtroom and showing them how it works, how a jury is selected. I have a son who's 40 years old, so consequently I don't have as much contact with my son or my grandchildren as I would like. But I come to work every single day, glad that I'm there. Can't wait for the courthouse to open. So my passion in life, it's the law. It's practicing law. It's getting to know the members of the community as clients and being able to give them the good news when we prevail and then explaining why we did not and what the consequences are. My husband is an attorney, and we spend our days talking about either the law or politics. So my passion is the law.
So thank you, Ms. Connie. And Ms. Melissa, your passion and further words for our viewers today.
I am passionate about serving our great community that we all live in. And I want to first start out by identify and investigate crime. I am passionate about this community. I live here with my family and my 2 kids, who I also adore, and I want to just continue to serve and continue to do my passion, but instead of from the courtroom podium.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. A very special thank you. I hope that those of you who are viewing appreciated how they answered the questions. I hope you learned something about the judicial system today through how they answered those questions. And I hope you will pay attention more to the rest of our forums as they come about in the next month or two. A special thank you to Bradenton Kiwanis Club, who has really provided the airway space and all of our people who have come alongside the Manatee Performing Arts Center, Shin Visual Productions, to make these forums possible. Special thank you to our technical crew here in the room today, who is running the computer system, Stuart Shin, and who's running sound, Kristen Ribble. Again, thank you to you, our viewers. We do hope that you appreciate the forum and the unique spin that we've put on the opportunities you now have to get to know our candidates who are running for office. With that, we say thank you, and we hope you'll join us again soon.